So a very warm welcome to our audience. I will maybe wait another 1 or 2 minutes to allow everyone to dial in. Maybe some of you have problems and should be able to join from the very beginning. Yes, so let's start. Welcome again. Welcome to the audience. We are happy to see that there is great interest in clinical drug supply services. And yeah, as you are aware, today's Nuvisan Talk is about how to optimize your clinical drug supply, tailored solutions for clinical success. It will be me, Christine Erbach, to lead the presentation. I'm the global head of clinical trial supplies at Nuvisan, heading both sites for CTS services in New Ulm and in Germany, and the other site in Sophia Antipolis, close to Nice in France. Let's take a look at today's agenda. We will start with some key considerations determining factors for clinical drug supply. We'll move on with different types of manufacturing activities relevant for clinical supply. Then we have QP services throughout the supply chain, a short introduction into supply chain and distribution topics, and following a few timelines, some estimated standard scenarios, what you can expect from clinical trial supply providers. We will end then with a Q&A session. And I need to explain our house rules. Your microphone is muted by default. You can use the QA box for your questions, which we will then answer after the presentation. And you will receive the recording and slides after the presentation. If you wish to see more on-demand content from Nuvisan, you can look at our homepage. Other webinars are available under insights.nuvisan.com. And we start with the first poll already. We would be happy to know if you have worked with Nuvisan before. So let's see what comes out. I'm curious. So that's it. Most of you have never worked with us before, but at least the biggest part who dialed in worked with clinical trial solutions. So I'm happy to see that. And yeah, we know that we could do more marketing. When we start with our first chapter, the key considerations, it's clear that your product, the investigational medicinal product, plays the most important role, followed by the study design, of course, and all details roughly or other criteria listed are especially in the supply chain, manufacturing activities, distribution activities, the systems you might need, and of course, what's always paramount in those complex organizational topics, the communication with all stakeholders. Yeah, then starting with the key considerations with regards to your product details. It sounds quite simple, but the type of product is really important when it comes to the selection of the right vendor. You can look up in the UDRA GMP database, for example, which contract manufacturer is capable of handling what type of products, whether it be a small molecule, a large molecule, biological, an antibody drug conjugate, or certain type of very special products like the ones listed here in italic letters, where you need as well, if you just place any orders for QP, release, packaging, labeling activities, special expertise by the qualified persons. So especially for vaccines, blood products, and all advanced therapy medicinal products, you need to be aware that this requires a special handling. Of course, additional characteristics are necessary to be kind of discussed upfront, not only the temperature range, but as well the stability data. For example, relevant if we need to organize for a resupply or expiry date relabeling. Is the product sterile or non-sterile is really relevant for the manufacturer selections. Is it a controlled drug, for example? Is it light or humidity sensitive? Or do we need to put additional measures in place to deal with certain toxicity levels? And with regards to the study design, of course, it makes a huge difference if we handle products to be used in an early phase clinical trial. For example, we might need to address the need of comparator manufacturing. We might to manufacture different strength of your test product in case you like to conduct a dose escalation study. You might need code break envelopes to allow an emergency unblinding of the staff at the site. For late phase material, for example, it's important to address comparator sourcing needs, sometimes several times for longer studies. Third countries outside the European Union might need to be involved with additional depots, and an IRT system, interactive response technology system, should be configured and in place to ensure the smooth supply of clinical products to the sites. In general, so for both early phase and late phase products, most clinical trials are randomized, so the randomization must be performed. Blinding masking of products is a big deal and a big part of interest for clinical trials supply vendors. The countries you like to conduct the clinical trials plus the number of sites need to be selected, and you need to have someone to write the investigational medicinal product dossier, the protocol, and all the documents to be forwarded for the clinical trial approval. So important and nice to know what is your core product type when it comes to manufacturing and clinical activities. Is it kind of small molecule, a biological from the innovator space area, a biological which might be a biosimilar, or do you have an antibody drug conjugate, a vaccine, or a blood product, or an advanced therapy medicinal product like cell therapy, gene therapy, or tissues? It would be interesting to know. Oh, sorry, we haven't finished the poll. Oh, the biggest portion is still with small molecules, and the second place goes to biologicals, where we might include the second to the fourth part. Okay, very interesting. And that reflects well our experience and what we handle today. So that's nice to see. When it comes to manufacturing activities, we should differentiate between bulk manufacturing, primary packaging, and secondary packaging. In our service area, let's say it this way. And starting with bulk manufacturing activities, so drug substance and drug product manufacturing, it's quite simple when it comes to investigational medicinal products. The sterile products are really very different from the non-sterile products in terms of vendor selection. So let's take a look at the right side at the sterile ones. Often the CMOs, the contract manufacturing organizations, are selected to cover drug substance, drug product manufacturing for all clinical phases, and including, in case the IMP performs well, for the commercial stage. So you will go with one vendor through all those different development stages. You would need to expect a lead time or work with a lead time of more than 1 year, even if the drug substance is already manufactured. That needs to be kept in mind, if you like to organize and plan for your clinical trial. For the non-sterile products, it's quite different what kind of activities you are doing. Is it for an early phase, for example, or a late phase study? For example, there are some very special clinical manufacturing activities which would allow a kind of easy, very quick entry into a first-in-human study, which are, for example, powder in the bottle, capsule filling just with the API only, over-encapsulation, a very special clinical supply activities, or placebo manufacturing. For the late phase clinical trials, of course, as well, capsule filling, tablet pressing is quite important, plus, again, the over-encapsulation. So all the activities marked with that asterisk are really provided by dedicated CTS manufacturers. And yeah, pretty much depending on the complexity of that type of manufacturing, from 2 up to 6 month lead time is really necessary for one drug product manufacturing activity, provided that the drug substance, the API, is already available. When we now take a look at all primary packaging activities, the most common ones for solid dosage forms are bottle filling, which is the easiest and most simple approach, cheapest approach. Tablets and capsules, for example, packed in usually HDPE bottles, could be closed with child-resistant, tamper-evident, or whatever special caps, as well, including a desiccant. For powders and granulates, for the very early phase products, it's quite the common way to put powders and granulates into amber glass bottles. You can QP release already this type of investigational medicinal product, and this is quite often used for later reconstitution at the clinical site. So just for the ones who are not familiar with reconstitution, that's